It's 1526 and the Spanish Empire is pretty big right now, so Hernan Cortes, the governor of New Spain, wrote to Emperor Charles V, "Hello Charlie, the Aztecs have fallen, but I am still in a very Chinese time of my life, so we should cross the Pacific, it's not that far, into China. Thank you, Cortes." Flash forward 30 years to 1565, and now the Spanish are in the Philippines. Would you look at that, they're actually not that far from China now. Since New Spain and New Spain were connected via discovered sea route, it encouraged some Spaniards to get a bit confident. Now it was here where they started to draft their Empresa de China, or Chinese enterprise, which planned to completely conquer Ming China from the recently established Spanish Philippines. Although there was no formal united plan, it was still a large collection of reports, petitions, and schemes devised by officials, mainly in the Philippines. Now, following their conquest of the Aztec and Inca states, they believed that their successors could be transferred to China, and if they called up the Sunrise Kingdom over there, then it would be GG's. Here was the overall plan and situation. First, they needed some men. How many men? Apparently 10 to 12,000 Iberian soldiers, 6,000 Filipino troops, 5,000 Japanese allied troops, and about 200,000 pesos for bribing Ming officials. That comes out to a total force of around 20,000 troops. Well, if you're thinking that's a low amount of troops to take all of this land and all of those people, well, you'd be right. In 1569, Martin de Rada, a Spanish missionary, visited China as one of its first Western ambassadors to the Middle Kingdom. After his visit, he said that although it looked densely populated, the Chinese were not warlike and depended heavily on their own fortifications for defense. Hence, he concluded that it would not be necessary to gather a large army to subdue them. I feel like out of any long-standing civilization in history, China is definitely one that is somewhat warlike, I would say. If this civilization had a battle in 260 BC where an enemy commander buried hundreds of thousands of surrendering soldiers alive, I'm pretty sure they know what war is like. On the 29th of November 1574, Chinese pirates led by Li Mahong pulled up on Spanish-controlled Manila. They had about 62 ships and 4,000 seamen against approximately 500 Spanish soldiers. Note, the 4,000 seamen were definitely not all soldiers, as they brought women, farmers, doctors, and all the things you'd need for a new colony. But would you look at that, the Spanish won. And the Chinese were like, "Hey, you've got some of our noblewomen that the pirates had, could you please give them back? I'll pay you." And the Spanish governor in the Philippines at the time just gave them away for free, on the condition to send a Spanish embassy to the emperor and open diplomatic relations. The Chinese were actually pretty chill with this, and they welcomed them in Fujian to build Spanish settlements and harden trade. Until some random stuff happened, where the Spanish had a new governor in the Philippines who didn't give any gifts to the Chinese ambassadors visiting Manila, which deeply offended them, and it all fell apart. It was now that the plan for the Chinese enterprise started to be entertained amongst officials in Manila. The main invasion schemes for the Empresa de China were drawn up by Jesuit diplomat Alonso Sanchez. Sanchez in 1582 actually went to Macau to check if the Chinese were still chill with them after the new recent dynastic union of Spain and Portugal, and also that random hiccup from before. Turns out they weren't chill, and he was arrested by the Chinese as they were angry they weren't told about the Spanish and Portuguese union. After his release, he held the belief that through only military force would Christianity thrive in China. How ironic. Now, here we go, step 1 of establishing New Spain. First, they would lead a Spanish force into Fujian, and then through the Macau settlements move a Portuguese force through Gongong. Then you send Jesuits like this brother Mateo, who had knowledge of the Chinese language and culture, and get them to win over local officials. Use those pesos to bribe them and encourage rebellion. Step 2, after establishing themselves on the coast, easier said than done. They would simply move towards Beijing and capture the Wanli Emperor. Yep, okay, I follow. They believed that taking the emperor would paralyze the Ming resistance and allow the Spanish to inherit the Chinese bureaucracy, rather than having to get a billion Spaniards to come over here and do it themselves. Maybe the Spanish also believed that the people would think the Spaniards had the mandate of heaven now. Anyway, step 3, transform China. Once the entirety of China proper was subjugated, again, easier said than done, they would do the following things. Make everyone Christian, construct hella churches, monasteries, and universities. Make a bunch of Spanish buildings, marry a bunch of Iberian men and Chinese women to make Wasian babies to join the New York City Wasian meetup. And make sure to keep some parts of the Ming administrative system around that were useful. And also, not that importantly, they also highlighted the importance of limiting unnecessary violence. Then step 4, take over Asia. they would use the resources from their new Spanish colony and expand into Southeast Asia, India, and the Indian Ocean. The plans that were written by those possibly smoking crack hinted at a Spanish China that might even provide an eastern front against the Ottoman Empire. Wait, what? Like that way? Oh lord. So, why are the Chinese not speaking Spanish in present day? And why doesn't the Spanish flag sit in the top left corner of theirs? Well, it comes down to a variety of factors. 1. The Spanish Armada. In 1588, the Spanish Armada attempted to invade England, and then after huge logistical errors suffered severe losses during the retreat, so they did not have the resources to even think about a Spanish invasion of the Chinese. Just mere months before the invasion attempt, Philip II had actually authorized the Junta para la Empresa de China, a committee established to review the proposals for conquering Ming China. Although this was not an invasion order, it was an official consideration. So then after the loss, the royal interest in China disintegrated. 2. Infighting with Portuguese allies. This is very self-explanatory, but it's just straight up not good if you want to invade a kind of big nation like Ming China. 3. Their most fundamental issue, the underestimating of Ming China. They treated Ming China much like the Aztecs or the Incans that would collapse after their ruler was captured. Surely they'd not watch the Bill Wirtz video where China's home again, then it broke again. Nonetheless, they also failed to realize that Ming China was a wee little bit bigger than the Aztecs or the Incans and had a wee bigger army and was slightly more advanced than them, let's just say. The Inca Empire and the Aztec Empire had a combined population in the 16th century of about 15 to 20 million people. Ming China, on the other hand, no, they didn't just have 2 times, or 3 times, or even 5 times. They had 10 times the people of both the Inca and Aztec empires combined, at around 150 to 200 million people. That is quite a lot of people. Ming China also contributed to nearly 1/3 of global economic output around the 16th century with their huge silk industries, enormous rice and wheat regions, and their large regional commercial networks. And the Spanish planned to shove a pretty moderately sized army of 20,000 men from the south to defeat this place. Yeah, that should work. 4. China is low-key far from Spain. The logistics of a Chinese invasion from the other side of the globe are immensely difficult, especially for back then. After their conquest of the Americas, many Spanish officers just thought it would be easy to overthrow any empire. Well, actually, we will never know if this invasion of China would have ever worked, but I have a little hunch it wouldn't have gone smoothly. In the 1590s, the new Philippine governor got explicit orders from Iberia to avoid war with China at all costs. Yep, sounds good, he said. Then literally just that moment, he saw the Japanese had invaded Korea, and they were like, oh shoot, and began drawing up plans for conquering Japan instead. So the Chinese invasion plans slowly faded out upon the dawn of the 17th century. Ah, European ambition, how beautiful.